Hey guys, it's Anthony Bandiero here, attorney and senior legal instructor for Blue to Gold Law Enforcement Training, bringing you to the Roadside Chat from the studio. The question comes from an officer in Minnesota, and basically he wants to know, what are the legal requirements for demanding an ID from a passenger? Okay, so first of all, you can demand ID if you have reasonable suspicion or probable cause that the passenger has committed some kind of violation, right? That does not offend the Fourth Amendment, right? Or the Fifth Amendment, unless strictly speaking, their identification is going to implicate the Fifth Amendment. They can, invoke their Fifth Amendment privilege if they believe it's going to implicate them. But normally we don't have those issues. So let's move right past that. If we do, then it gets a little more complicated. But normally demanding the ID in and of itself is lawful. That case is as a U.S. Supreme Court case that originated out of Winnemucca, Nevada. It's called Heibel, right? I think it's Hiibel, Heibel. And the U.S. Supreme Court said that demanding the person's ID under a reasonable suspicion stop was lawful. But the second issue is this. Where's the so what? Okay, you demand ID because you have reason to believe they are engaged in some kind of criminal activity. They say no. The next question is the so what? Do you have a statute that prohibits that conduct? Do you have a statute, in other words, that requires a person that is stopped by police, right, under reasonable suspicion to provide ID? Not every state does. California doesn't have it, and some other states don't. Not Nevada does, Arizona does, and many other states. So that's my next question for police is, okay, it's one thing where you can demand ID without offending the Fourth or Fifth Amendment usually. It's an entirely different thing about what you can do about it. You know what I'm saying? It might be an empty threat because it may not be obstruction in your state. Like, so for example, in California, not providing ID in and of itself is not obstruction in California. It does not offend Penal Code 148 because Penal Code 148 does not require identification upon being stopped by police for reasonable suspicion. Now, it would for a probable cause because you got to issue the citation, but that's just kind of weird. But a lot of states do have laws that require identification. So that's the first thing. Do you have reasonable suspicion or probable cause? Do you have a law that you can enforce? Now let's talk about, specifically the officer wants to know about marijuana, right? Because he smells the odor of marijuana. It's still illegal in Minnesota to recreationally use marijuana. And then we have reasonable suspicion that they may be engaged in, in possessing marijuana and so forth in a vehicle. Can we demand ID? Well, the answer, generally speaking, is yes. All you need is a reason to believe that the passenger is engaged in criminal activity to demand ID. So I don't see a problem there. What if he refuses? Well, what does your state law say? Is that an arrestable offense? Then you go from there, right? The officer says you have to have, basically implies or says you have to have probable cause, but that they have constructive possession or so forth. No, you don't need probable cause. You need reasonable suspicion. The next thing is, okay, you get them out. Can you pat them down, right? Can you pat them down? Well, that's a different issue. Now the question is do you have reasonable suspicion that a particular occupant or occupants are armed and dangerous? Are they in a gang? Are they hiding something? Furtive movements? Do you have prior histories? Are they on paper for something? I mean, do you see a bulge consistent with a firearm or weapon? What do you see, right? I want to know what you see. Just because you're going to search a car for weapons for marijuana in and of itself does not give you a right to pat down people. But explain to the court, how many people on scene? How many passengers? Will your backs be turned? Is it nighttime where you see less stuff and it's, more criminal activity at night? Tell me why. High crime area. Give me some factors. Now, the final question that the officer asked, which comes up often, and even he acknowledged that there's a lot of debate in his department about this one, and surely there is. If we're searching a car Does that also give us the authority to search the occupants? And the answer is no. That's not the rule. The motor vehicle exception only applies to motor vehicles and containers therein. But the way it works right now is that a human being is not a container for probable cause purposes. So in order to search an occupant, usually we're talking about passengers here. The drivers are a little easier because you get the inference that the driver is in control of the contents, right? And knows about it and so forth. That's not beyond a reasonable doubt type of inference. It's just something that the courts will allow you to do on scene. But that doesn't mean that the passengers are in on it too. Now you have to articulate what's called a nexus. Do you have a nexus between the probable cause in the vehicle and this occupant? Why do you believe these two are connected? Why do you believe that the front passenger, for example, also, may have marijuana on their person? Because you smell the odor of burning marijuana, that is likely that they could have it on him because he's partaking in it, right? That's reasonable to believe. Is the person being abnormally nervous, deceptive, evasive? Do they have a criminal history in line with this, a recent criminal history? Give me some of those factors before you start searching passengers. Okay? That's the rule. I also have a YouTube video on this exact topic. And I also have a free webinar called Searching Cars and Occupants that I do live. It's also on demand. So go to university.bluetogold.com and check it out. All right. Did I help? Did I move the ball forward even an inch? If I did, I've done my job. All right. And, keep the feedback coming. If you like what I'm doing, you want me to do something different, let me know. I'm receptive, right? I want these things to help you, and let me know. Before you guys leave, hit like or subscribe, hit like or comment, hit subscribe, and finally tell your friends about us. I want to train cops, and this is a great way to do it. All right. Until next time, my friends, stay safe.
When it comes to law enforcement training, we are the gold standard. Visit bluetogold.com or call 888-579-7796 to learn more about our training, books, and free webinars. Also, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this channel.